Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zeniton. Welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Today is patch notes day. So no gameplay today. We're just gonna be looking over some patch notes today. It's a very long balance patch, very big balance patch. So there's a lot to talk about today. If you've ever watched one of these videos where I talk about the balance patch, the patch notes, we're gonna go through each and every single part of the patch notes. Mostly going to be focusing on the balance changes themselves. I will talk about what I think each of the changes will do for that card, the archetypes it's played in, the meta in general, and I will also, at the very end, try to give a quick summary as to what I think will happen with the meta and how it will evolve. Obviously, these are just opinions. They can be wrong, they can be right, they can be partially wrong and partially right. Uh, don't take my word as gospel, but these are just my personal opinions. So let's get right into reading these patch notes. Really quick, I'm first off really happy to see this again, the Metagame Snapshot. Sure, there is stats that we have ourselves as a community from websites like Mobalytics, but it's always nice to see internal stats. So one, we can see just how accurate Mobalytics is, which to spoil it, Mobalytics is fairly accurate. And two, it lets us see like exactly what Riot is seeing too, so we get a little bit of a peek inside the inner workings. So let's just go over this really quick. They're gonna do a metagame snapshot. They did this back in patch 1.14 to provide context for larger patch or batches of card updates, which is what this is. The snapshot data looks only at Platinum, Diamond, and Masters across all of the regions. Only meta decks are represented, and they define meta decks as a 3% play rate or 50+% win rate. But win rates are based on all games played during the time period and analyzed. Meta decks shown below are based off of the blah 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 and all that. So, as a rule of thumb, they like to look at decks with a 55 or higher win rate or and a 15% or higher play rate for when they were looking for balancing stuff. But like they say here, they make adjustments outside of those numbers for multiple reasons. For example, whether something is healthy for the game or whether it's just for fun. So, real quick before we get too far, on the left we will have the regions, the champions here, and then the most distinct unifying card, a deck code in case you want to play these decks, even though some of them might be getting nerfed. And there is an asterisk next to them, like right here, if they are being affected by card nerfs. And again, just because a card in a deck is not, just because a deck does not have any cards that are getting nerfed, doesn't mean the deck itself is not getting nerfed. That sounds weird, but a deck that gets nerfed, or a deck that's not getting nerfed, might lose a good matchup because another deck it would destroy got a lot of cards nerfed, and that deck will just disappear, so it loses a good matchup. I hope that made sense, and I'm not rambling, and I hope I'm not just saying something that everyone knows, and people are going to be like, yeah, no duh, streamer, you're a dummy. Keep talking and get to the balance and talk more. So yeah, this is all about exactly what people would expect. Most played deck is, I'm still very surprised this is the most played deck. It is Lysandra Trundle, Freljord Shadow Isles control, Watcher combo, whatever you want to call it. I'm very surprised it's very heavily played because in my honest opinion, it does not have a good win rate. Like you look at this and you're like, oh, 51, round up 52% win rate. That's really good, right? Yes and no. Again, remember, this is Platinum, Diamond, and Masters. In Mobalytics, I keep saying Mobalytics. If you don't know what Mobalytics is, it's a basically stat accruing website that also has some decks and stuff. Go check it out if you don't know what it is. But in Mobalytics, I believe if you look at Masters only, which is starting to skew the data, but when you look at Masters only, you get on average, I'd say a higher quality of player, at least in terms of gameplay. I believe it was around like a 48-ish% win rate. So the higher the average skill goes, is the way I looked at it, the lower and lower Lysandra Trundle's win rate became. That doesn't mean I think it's a bad deck. I think it is a fine deck, but I think it is a bad deck for ladder where there's so much variance on ladder. But for tournaments, it's good in my opinion because you can ban out certain decks. Uh, but yeah, didn't get touched at all. I feel like it's fine. It didn't get touched at all. Not a super high play rate, and its win rate is not that high. Next up, we got Bilgewater PNZ, TF Fizz. If you've played this game in the past, like, couple of months, you know this deck. It's crazy good. 56.4% win rate, 10.6% play rate. That's insane. It got nerfed, it seems. Next up, Fiora Shen. Same exact win rate, little less play rate. It also got nerfed. Azir Lucian next up. These are just an aggro deck, in other words. Seems like they're playing Remembrance now. A lot of them are. I don't know if I like Remembrance in that deck, but it's annoying. Only a 52% win rate. I don't think this deck needs a nerf. I think the deck is easy to tech for. It's just really annoying when it gets its thing going off. Next up, Bilgewater Targon. Zoe APHELIOS decks. 54% win rate. Sounds about right. I kind of want to see like what the total win rate if it was just Aphelios Zoe, ignoring region combination. So, you could get Aphelios Zoe and Targon Shadow Isles, Targon Demacia, Targon. I know some people like to play with Targon P and Z, just to see what the play rate and win rate would be if you include all of them, mush them all together. I know there's even Targon Freljord because they like what's it called? Troll Chant. Next up, Mono Fiora, Demacia Freljord. Only barely above a 50% win rate, but this deck is a deck that a lot of people find annoying because it just blanks a lot of cards and it just destroys some decks. Little sad it got nerfed, but it's because the Fiora got nerfed, more likely because of Fiora Shen. Next up, Ashe Sejuani LeBlanc, Ashe Noxus, Freeze mid-range, whatever you want to call this. 53% win rate. I think this deck is going to get better and better with the nerfs that are coming up. Next up, Nasus Kindred, 51.8% win rate. I didn't know people still played this deck, in all honesty. I haven't seen this deck too much. I see it like maybe once every, I'd say like 15 games. So, yeah. Can't talk too much about that. Next up is Pirate Bird, Misfortune, Gangplank, Bilgewater Noxus, 53.5% win rate. I feel like this is a deck that is mostly seen at lower levels, and before you say this is Platinum and higher streamer, Platinum and even Diamond and low-ranked Masters players are, honestly, in my opinion, bad compared to like the very, very top of Masters. I say that as one of those players, not the top of Masters players, as the Platinum, Diamond, low-ranked Master player. That's what I am. Next up, Freljord, Shurima, Renekton, Sejuani. Shurima Overwhelm, whatever you want to call this deck. Really good deck. I'm really scared of this deck. I think this deck will get even better with the patch. Very annoying to play against. And then next up is Teemo Draven Jinx, Noxus PNZ, Discard Aggro, 53.4% win rate. I feel like this deck might get a little worse now that it doesn't have TF Fizz to go against. I feel like it was good against TF Fizz because it could race them. Next up, the last one is Vlad Braum. I can't believe Vlad Braum is meta, but here we are. 51.6% win rate. Not a high win rate, and not even that high of a play rate, only 2.9%. But that's crazy for Vlad, who has been the joke and the meme of all champions for a long time. Even though he wasn't even the worst for a long time. He's just kind of the face of bad champions. Anyway, though, I believe we can look at the card changes now. So why not? First up, we have Twisted Fate. Good old TF. Not a big change to him. His only change outside of other cards is that he now needs to see 9 cards being drawn instead of 8. That is not a big change at all. I like this change because, one, it makes it so it's very tough to level him up the next turn after you play him, which, if you don't know, it was really easy to level him up the turn after he was played. You would go TF, blue card, pick a card. That already would be, I believe, 5 cards out of 8, because you would get the card from pick a card. Or sorry, not the card from pick a card. The card from blue card. The card from starting a new turn. And then the 3 cards from pick a card. That would be 5 out of 8 already. All you would have to do after that is play a rummage, discarding stress testing as one of your cards. That would be 8 cards drawn in the space of 2 turns. I believe pick a card has also been nerfed too, though, so that's nice. But I like this change because it makes it so certain decks that would play TF and not really care about the level up as much, and they wouldn't try to level them up as hard as you would see in TF Fizz. It kind of doesn't affect those decks that much. Like, they're not that meta right now, but TF Swain and TF Ezreal, I know those decks aren't meta that well, or that much, but they're still viable-ish, in my opinion. And plus, it doesn't just completely kill the card. So let's see what they say real quick. Twisted Fate's quest can be completed in extremely short windows of time. Okay, like I said. Considering his level 2 is usually completely game-winning, very, very true, we feel the need to increase the quest requirements slightly to broaden windows for interaction before he levels up. This is especially important for us to keep an eye on given both current and potential future content that involves card draw. I like it. So they realized that TF kind of was hampering design in the future for future card draw cards, and instead of just playing around it and nerfing something else, they decided to slightly nerf TF and make it harder to level him up. So I like it. Next up, Fiora. I think she's dead. I think this card is deader than dead. Not as dead as Sad Moon Boy, who we'll talk about later here. But yeah, I feel like Fiora is not gonna be a good card anymore. She is now a 3/2 instead of a 3/3. Obviously leveled up 4/3 now instead of 4/4. This is a big nerf. I've seen some people try to defend this, saying it's not a big nerf because no one plays Fiora without a way to protect her. One, that's just not true. And two, she has less health. I don't know in what world you live in where less health on a card is not a big nerf, especially going from 3 to 2. Going from 3 to 2 is a big nerf. Like, look at APHELIOS. Sure, he was still played after he got nerfed, but dying to things like Blighted Ravine, Avalanche, and Mystic Shot are really big. And yes, I know it's the lull dice to removal argument that every card game does, but that is a decent argument to take into account. I really wish they had changed it so she would be a 2/3 instead of a 3/2, but that they might have tested that out and decided it wasn't a big enough nerf, and maybe they were sick and tired of seeing so much Fiora, specifically Fiora Shen. I am a little worried though, because Fiora Shen was kind of one of the last deny decks that was meta relevant. Sure, you can always say Spooky Karma's around. Not really. Not really at all. So because of this nerf, I actually think like we might see some Feel the Rush come back, and just harrowing in general as well, just big haymaker spells, because you can actually play them now and not worry about running into Fiora Shen too much. Because we saw earlier, if I would scroll up if I wanted to, there was not much Ionia being played. And yes, I know Shurima has its own counter spell too in the form of Rite of Negation. And yes, Hush and other things sort of stop Feel the Rush, and you can play like Ruination against Harrowing, but still, it's not as clean as just denying those cards. Let's see what they have to say here real quick though. Fiora has a long history of going between breaking thresholds one week and then being totally fine the next, given certain metagame shifts. Recently, it's been doing more of the former, given Golden Aegis and Shurima's regional weakness against her. Yeah, Shurima is kind of weak against her, actually, now that I think about it. By reducing her health, we're giving decks with less interaction more ability to power through, and introducing much more risk and disruptability for Fiora's alternate win con. I feel like they were, with that last sentence, that means to me they were trying to target less so Fiora Shen, even though they did target it as well, and more just the all-in Fiora decks, the decks that try to like buff Fiora with something like Stand Alone and try to win with the Fiora win con. That's what I'm seeing here. So yeah, a little sad. I liked those kind of mono Fiora, all-in Fiora kind of decks. Things like Fiora Zoe and Fiora APHELIOS, but whatever. I think she's still an okay card and not as dead as certain cards, but this is a big nerf to her. Next up, Jarvan buff. Not a big buff here to talk about. Not a lot to talk about here. He just got a +1/+1 buff. They're talking about how he has been the least played champ of the set, And they'd like to give him a straightforward buff to his base stats to make him more of a threat on board. Health is always nice. Like some extra health is always nice, letting it survive certain kill spells and certain common units in combat is really, really nice. And 3 to 4 health is not as big as 2 to 3, but it's still pretty big. Being able to dodge gotcha, I guess, and it's not that common, but get excited as well is pretty nice. So, you know, it's something. And there are a lot of 3 damage challengers, I think, like Boxopus that would kill Jarvan that don't kill Jarvan anymore. So it's nice. Not sure I'll play Jarvan too much. Not really a big fan of the archetype he goes in, but whatever. Now, this buff, I like this buff. I don't think this buff will save dragons, but Shyvana got a buff. The buff is that she now has less attack. She now starts as a 3/4 instead of a 4/4, but she now starts with Fury. Before, she used to always have to level up before she would get Fury. This is huge, in my opinion. Specifically because of the Dragon Chow. You can now have Dragon Chow on the field, play Shyvana. She'll, first off, get some progress towards her level up, which it is kind of tough to level her up. You'll get the card, obviously, from the Dragon Chow, and you'll get the Fury trigger on Shyvana. So she'll become a 4/5 when she gets summoned, and become a 5/6 when she attacks. That is really nice. Now, is that enough to save dragons? I don't know. The issue I've always had with dragons is finishing the game. You might say, well, why not play Aurelion Sol? He's really slow. Like, Aurelion Sol is really, really slow, and I don't know if the meta will slow down enough for him to come back. I've seen some people, myself included, playing Aurelion Sol recently in, like, APHELIOS decks, but that was more that you had Temple to help you out. Help catch you up in terms of mana. So maybe we pair Shyvana with Jarvan to try and control the board and fight for the board and play more of a mid-range dragon deck with the, I can't remember the name of the card, the 6-mana dragon rally girl. I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows? Next card. I don't know about this change. Lulu got a +1/+0 buff. Not a big buff. She's now a 3/3 instead of a 2/3. Honestly, I don't think this is a meaningful buff. Sure, the nice thing is she can block fearsomes, which, yeah, that's nice and all, but again, I feel like the reason we don't see Lulu is, one, supporting stuff, and the support archetype kind of just sucks overall, and 2, Lulu just dies. And you might say, like, isn't Shyvana also a 3-mana 2/3? Shyvana, and I just said Shyvana, I meant Lysandra. Lysandra is also a 3-mana 2/3, but 1, she has tough, and 2, she doesn't have to attack in like Lulu does. Lulu has to get in and do combat damage. You attack in with something with 3 health on turn 3, that is probably going to die. Or at least your opponent will have something to trade with it. A lot of 2-drops trade with 3 health. Think like a Mountain Goat. What else? I can't really think of anything right now, but shut up. I guess like Bright Steel Protector and stuff. So yeah, I don't think this buff is going to be enough to help out Lulu, but I've seen some people, since we have seen the Fiora nerf, I've seen some people saying, how about Lulu Shen? That was a deck for a hot minute when Lulu first came out. Yeah, but that was mostly because War Chefs was great back then. Back then, War Chefs was a 2/3 for a 2. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's enough. I really wish Lulu had 1 more health instead of this extra attack, but who knows? Let's see what they're trying to say here really quick, though, before I go and continue on. Lulu has been among the least played champions since her launch. Very true. We're looking to reinforce some of Ionia's aggressive capabilities in this patch, and we're giving a small buff to Lulu to allow her the ability to attack profitably in more games. I guess, yeah, that is true. Now, she will just trade, and she does level up quickly, so she will become a 4/4 really fast, and a 4/4 does survive combat easier than a 3/3, so that's nice. I'm just not a big fan. Now this is a nerf I like. Pick a card. These 2 nerfs in general. First off, pick a card is now 2 mana instead of 3 mana, and you now only draw 2 instead of 3. This is a huge nerf. Between this and TF, his level up nerf, he's gonna have a hard time leveling up now. Like a really, really hard time. Like I said about the whole like, you do a TF blue card into pick a card into rummage with discarding stress testing. That only draws, I believe, 7 cards now instead of 8. So you're gonna have to draw another 2 cards, which is just another rummage or something, to level up a TF. That's really big. I've seen some people try to argue this is actually a buff because it costs less. It's not. It's not. Sure, yes, cards being cheaper is nice, but this card was already cheap enough that its mana cost wasn't that taxing on your mana base. So sure, I guess maybe for aggro, but even then, it's not that big of a change. Let's see what they have to say here. Pick a card's draw power was both allowing significant lethal setups while also creating explosive card draw to turbo level TF on round 5. Yes, it was very annoying. We're streamlining the effect to reduce the ceiling on this card. Very cool. Next, nerf. Burblefish is now a 2-1 instead of a 3-1. If I were to not be biased here, I would say this is a good nerf. It's still somewhat playable because the thing is, we see this card get played in non TF Fizz decks just because it was a 3-1 for 0 mana. It would easily get to 0 mana. That would create a card. And usually 1 mana cards in most regions are decent. Sure, there are some cards that just whiff, like Jettison and Bilgewater. But there are some really powerful ones too, like Spell Thief and Targon. So yeah, me personally, I would have liked to have seen a mana nerf, like maybe have Burblefish go up to 8 mana, but that's because I really don't like this card and I'm being biased. So in all honesty, this is probably better. This is probably less of a nerf than increasing the mana cost. So sure, nice. What do I have to say though, real quick? Burblefish can both efficiently and reliably cost 0 mana. This is an exciting build around and payoff, so we're leaving this capability, but flatly reducing its power to reduce the payoff and lethality of Fizz's friend, especially when copied. Oh, okay, so they did mention the iterative improvement Wiggly Burblefish synergy there is, so that's nice. They have it on their radar at least. Next up, I've seen some people talk a lot about this card, Dredgers. This is a revert. Dredgers used to be a 2-1, then it became a 1-1, and now it's a 2-1 again. Not much to talk about here, but some people are saying this will make deep tier 1. I don't think so. Not much to talk about with Dreadway. Or not Dreadway, Dredgers. But speaking of Dreadway, it seems like they wanted to break up the timelines combo of you play timelines, you play Ladros, transform Ladros into Dreadway, pretty much auto win the game at that point. Sure, you could interact by playing like a Vengeance or hushing the Dreadway before the Ladros ability resolved, but if you didn't have a way to interact, it would just OTK you. So now they have reduced it to 8 mana, which is also kind of a buff to Gangplank decks, so that's nice. The one thing I will say though is now you can do Riptide Rex timelines with Dreadway, which is probably not good, but it's a thing. Smile. But yeah. They also reduced the stat line. It's now 4-6 instead of 4-8, which is whatever. Changing the Dreadway has 2 purposes. First off, we want to prevent the timelines combo. Yeah, cool. Regardless of the deck's power level. Yeah, that deck, the thing about the Dreadway Ledros timelines combo was it did not win a lot. Its win rate was not that great, but I feel like when you did lose to it, it always felt bad. Variance has its places, but this particular combo is too decisive in gameplay considering its erratic nature. Cool. Secondly, this change gives us an opportunity to adjust Dreadway for more decks to be able to use it and Gangplank more effectively. I like that. I have definitely built some memes that use like Dreadways and Anivias and Scouts. They were god-awful, but they were fun memes. What do we have next? Shadow Assassin. It's now a 2-1 instead of a 1-2. Cool. I don't think this is enough to save Ionia. This card used to be a 2-2 a long time ago, and then they nerfed it to a 1-2, and now it's a 2-1. I don't think this is enough to save it. or save Ionia. The card itself is good again, in my opinion. I think a 2-1 is much better than a 1-2. It just seems like a more control-y decks won't be playing this card, but maybe Ionia aggro will come back with Lulu and Shadow Assassin. I don't think so, but who knows. We want to provide better options to use Ionia as a core part of any given strategy. Given the current power level and availability of new regional tools, we want to make an adjustment that we were a bit hesitant about when we originally changed Shadow Assassin. I'll be honest with you, I don't think this is enough. I think Ionia is still going to just be the support region, only really played for Deny and a couple of champions. And we also have Shurima now to play for Deny in the form of Rito Negation if we really want to play Deny. And plus, while Shen didn't get nerfed, his best friend Fiora got nerfed, so that's a little sad for them. So there's Lee Sin, I guess, still. Because we got what? We got Zed, who doesn't see play. Karma, who is... She sees play, but mostly because she's fun. She doesn't really win. Shen, who sees play, but his friend, like I said, Fiora, got nerfed. And then there's Lee Sin, who... he's pretty good. Next up, Fey Guide. He's now a 3-4 instead of a 3-3. That's pretty good, I guess. It's basically Sumpwork maps for a little extra mana, but you get a 3-4 body. That's pretty good. Again, the issue is it's Ionia. I don't think it's, again, like I said, with Shadow Assassin, I don't think this is enough to help push Ionia into relevancy. Maybe there's some units I'm thinking of that would like to get elusive and not want to play PNZ for some pork maps. Instead, they'll play Fey Guide. But I don't see it. This is nice, though. A 4-mana 3-4 is a okay stat line. So that's nice. Its stat line is more defensive, so it can block better and survive. So I like it. But I don't think it'll help out Ionia enough. Fey Guide looks like they could use some slightly better stats to help them be a bit more reliable in combat and provide more realistic appeal to Ionia decks looking to capitalize on the effect. Cool, cool. I guess the nice thing about this... how to put this? The nicest thing about this is Ionia aggro, I know, laughing at me. But Ionia aggro seems like it doesn't outrace other aggro decks, if that makes sense. So it will have to do some combats. It will have to do some blocking. And Fey Guide now is good at blocking. Is that enough to put Ionia aggro actually on the board? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I guess, like, with the Hatchling, I think it's called, like, Windfarer Hatchling, the 4-2 for 7, I think? Maybe along with that as the finisher, it can do some, like, weird, like, elusive aggro with maybe Bilgewater or something? And try and win on turn 7, but I just don't see it. I guess you could give, like, Zed elusive and get a quick Zed level up. So that'd be cool, but I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Next up, what have we got? Oh, this one. This is a an unnerf, a reversion. Legion Rearguard is now a 3-2 for 1. That's nice. Used to be a 3-2 a long time ago, back when Burn was at its prime. Then it got nerfed to a 3-1. Now it's back to a 3-2. I've seen a lot of people say this will put Burn back on the tier list. I don't think so. I think Burn is still going to be bad because of a number of things. The 2-mana 1-3 that deals 2 when he attacks is still nerfed. It used to be a 1-4. The Crimson Girl has been nerfed. She only deals 1 instead of 2 now. And there's probably more things. Blighted Ravine's a thing now. Targan with their healing. So, yeah. I don't think this is going to be enough to bring Burn back. And Pirate Burn has been around, but Pirate Burn at the top level of the game doesn't seem like it's that amazing outside of certain metas. So yeah. I guess it's nice for Noxus aggro that doesn't want to be too burn-oriented. I don't know. It's another 1-drop for Noxus aggro, so that's nice. They're reverting the change, it seems, because they had left him strictly worse than other cards over time. I can't remember the name of the card, but that 1-mana 3/1 Shurima card that can block. And they're making this change to support Noxus' aggro regional identity. I guess maybe like Mono Noxus again might use this. Maybe. Anyway, though. Next one, another deep buff. This one I'm a little scared of. Sea Scarab is now a 2/3 instead of a 1/2. You might say, like, that's not a big buff streamer. It is. Again, it survives Mystic Shot. That is really big. Sea Scarab, you can look at Sea Scarab as kind of an engine, basically. Like, you want this to live, you want it to sit in the back and stay safe and get you deep relatively quickly. So you would see people playing PNZ, and they would almost always Mystic Shot your Sea Scarab. You might say, like, isn't that good? It's one less Mystic Shot for your other units. Most of your other units don't get Mystic Shotted outside of, like, Dead Bloom, the 3/2 toss 3 with lifelink. So yeah, this is scary. It also is a little bit nice because now it's not as bad to get from random things like Jaw Hunters and Slaughter Dogs. So that's nice. It's now a 5/6 instead of a 4/5 when you're deep. So that's pretty cool too. Like with Dredgers, we think Deep's early game could use a boost. We wanted to respond to feedback by both making it less detrimental and generated and reinvigorating Deep strategies. While I think Deep is going to get better, I don't think Deep will be a tier 1 deck. And my reasoning for that is I think Deep is just a little too high variance at the moment. Where, sure, you can get those nut starts where it's like, sure, turn 1 Dredgers, turn 2 Scarab, turn 3 like Dead Bloom or Slaughter Dogs or whatever. And that's a really good start. But then you have the other turns, and you cannot make this argument with a lot of decks, but you have those other turns in the early game where it's like, okay, I drew like a Nautilus and like a Devourer in the early game. Stuff you don't want to draw in the early game, and then you're just kind of out of luck, right? I don't know. Anyway, though. I like it though. I think this will help out Deep. I think they could make it to tier 2 depending on the meta if they tune the deck right, but I don't think they will be a tier 1 meta shaper, just a deck to pick up in a certain meta. Next up, Hierophant, however you want to pronounce this guy, esteemed Hierophant. Not a big buff here. He just advances the Sun Disc by 3 now instead of 2, so really nice. Sun Disc decks are generally reliant on leveling up 2 Ascended Champions to restore the Sun Disc. We want to give the Hierophant a minor adjustment, allowing him to be a more meaningful inclusion in Shurima decks revolving around the Sun Disc. Cool. Allowing alternate paths to its countdown in some situations. I always felt like if you were playing Sun Disc, you played 3 of these anyway. But granted, I haven't seen Mono Shurima deck lists in forever because I think they're bad, in my opinion, and I have no reason to look them up because I don't see them. Often, at least. But yeah, I don't think this is going to make it so Mono Shurima and Sun Disc decks are playable. I think the issue with Mono Shurima Sun Disc decks are they are a deck that wants to be slow to get the Sun Disc to, restore itself. And at the moment, a lot of Shurima cards are not really slow kind of cards. They want to be more aggressive, more tempo-oriented. Look at cards like Ruin Runner. Sure, there's a card like Rampaging Bakai, which is somewhat decent at being slow and defensive, but it's a little tough to activate on turn 5 consistently. Next up, there's not much to talk about with this card. Callus Bonecrusher, 4 mana, 6/3. It's now a 6/4, reputation high cost 2. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't know this card existed. It's a bad card. This card is mostly a draft kind of card, expedition kind of card. I guess it's nice for expedition, but that's it. The stat profile is too off for serious consideration. They're making this change to help in expedition. Oh, I didn't even know they were changing this for expeditions. Okay, and potentially see more niche normal game experimentation. Cool. I don't think you should play this in a serious constructed deck, but yeah, that's nice for what's it called? Expeditions. Now here we go. My poor moon boy. I like APHELIOS. That's right, I'll say it. I won't hide it. I like APHELIOS. I still like him. The moon weapons now cost 3 instead of 2 mana. This is a huge nerf. between this, Aphelios going down to 2 health instead of his old 3/3 stat line, and the next nerf I believe we'll see, the Veil Temple nerf, I think Aphelios is dead. Targon as a region I think is still fine because it has a lot of good cards besides like Temple decks and Aphelios decks, but this hurts a lot. But still, I think Targon's fine. Between Star Shapings, Tom Rocca, and Zoe, and I guess not Aphelios, Aurelion Soul, I think Targon's fine-ish. But yeah, this is such a big nerf. I really think Aphelios is garbage now. Let's see what they have to say though. Our initial goal for moon weapons was to be slightly better than collectible cards at the same cost, similar to Celestials. However, the ability to phase and recreate weapons was too easily achievable. Removing Aphelios' weapons to 3 costs to lower their efficiency and slow down his payoffs. Quick note, I have seen some people talking about like, hey, they're costing 3 mana now. How about Tri-Beam? I would like to note before that people have tried Aphelios Tri-Beam and it's just not as good as Ezreal Draven. Like I've seen it in the form of Ezreal Aphelios. Instead of using Draven, you would use Aphelios. And the reason people started doing that was back when Hush was nerfed from 2 to 3 mana. Who knows, maybe this will help it out, but I don't think so. I don't think this is good enough. I think you should just never play Aphelios ever again. I legitimately think Aphelios is going to go drop from like one of the most played champs to now one of the least played champs, like bottom 5 champs, like down there with Taric and Katarina, in my opinion now. Next card. Oh, okay, yeah, they also reverted or changed up Moon Weapon or gifts from Beyond. The gifts now cost 1 mana instead of 2 mana. It's still a net of 4 mana to cost or cast a Moon Weapon on the same turn. I'd say this is a nerf though, because in case you want to hold the Moon Weapon and not play it that same turn, but overall it's not much of a change. It's nice for decks that want to play gifts from Beyond and Moon Weapons that are not Aphelios decks, so it doesn't affect them too much. So that's nice. And they want to retain the current total cost of gifts, considering it's not creating Moon Weapons freely like Aphelios, so that's nice. Here's the buff or the nerf I was talking about. Veil Temple. I think this nerf kills the card. Veil Temple is now giving +1/+0 instead of +1/+1. This is huge. The health on Temple was the biggest, most important thing in my opinion. Sure, the mana was good, and it was also a very big part of it. But the thing about Temple is you would play it early-ish, like turn 4, turn 5, turn 6-ish, and you would most likely take a turn off from when you would play Temple, unless you have things like, I don't know, the Serpent and a couple of cheap spells. But what you would do is you would play the Temple, and then you would play a unit, or maybe even have a unit on the field already, and that unit would absorb a lot of buffs, and you would try to use that unit in theory to stall your opponent and stonewall, brickwall your opponent as you try to catch up from the tempo loss that Temple created. Now that Temple's not giving health, your unit that's getting those buffs is just going to die much easier. I don't think it's an unplayable card, even though I think I just said earlier it's unplayable now. I just think it's really, really bad. And that makes me sad because this was one of the last playable non-countdown landmarks. I guess there's like Emperor's Dais, however you pronounce that. That's a card that's playable, but it does make me a little sad. I kind of wish if they did want to do a stat change, they would have kept the health and gotten rid of the attack, or they might have made it so it gives less mana, or make it so it only refills spell mana, because that buff was very nice. Still, though, I guess like you could argue like, yeah, you can still use it with Zoe and have Zoe get some attack, but I don't know. It's a little sad. Let's see what I have to say. While we have liked to see some of our newer landmarks having legitimate competitive power, the Veil Temple can snowball games in multiple directions, removing the health buff from its trigger to allow players to attack or otherwise remove buffed units. A good parallel, I feel like, is Grand Plaza. Grand Plaza used to give +1/+1, then they nerfed it to give +1/+0 as well instead, like this card. And now you don't really see Grand Plaza too much, even in Scout decks. Scout decks just don't play it anymore. So I feel like Targon's just not going to play Veil Temple anymore. Because why? I'd rather just develop the board more or get more resources in my hand or on the board than spend a whole turn to develop a landmark that doesn't really help protect my face because it's not giving health. Who knows though? Maybe it'll get played. As for what I think the meta is going to turn into, I think we're going to see 3 decks take over, and I think it's going to be. I think 2 of those 3 decks are going to be very old, boring decks. And I think it's going to be Lee Sin, Zoe, Ezreal, Draven. And for the 3rd deck, I think some newer mid-range deck might show up, whether it is Shurima, Freljord Overwhelm, LeBlanc, some LeBlanc deck like LeBlanc Ashe, or maybe even LeBlanc Ezreal. But I feel like Draven Ezreal is just better. Or maybe even LeBlanc Severe might come around. I don't think LeBlanc Severe will be the deck that people choose. So I don't think that deck's good. But yeah, let's look at the rest of the patch real quick. That's all for the balance changes now. If that's all you cared about, thank you for watching the video. But there's a little bit more left to the patch. First up, lab updates. Not much here. Lab of Legends is updated. Ultra Rapid Draw. I don't know what that is. I think it's new. It says it's new here. I don't think we've ever seen it before. And United Front PvP. So the 2v2 mode, I think. Is that the 2v2 mode? I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's a 2v2 mode or the 2-player mode against the AI. Heimerdinger's Temporal Transducer has gone haywire. Everything is looking a little quicker than usual. Ultra Rapid Draw is a new spin on Quick Draw. Oh, I know what Quick Draw is. I know the Quick Draw one. With more random cards, more mana, and everything moving at a rapid pace. There's also a few more Golden Spatulas and Manatees statues around than there are usually. Okay. Lab of Legends has been upgraded. Champions, more champions. Cool. Talia and Azir. Oh, quick thing to note about the Veiled Temple nerf. Talia probably gets worse because she liked to copy Temple. So that's really sad for Talia. But yeah, Talia and Azir are now in Lab of Legends. So that's pretty cool. I like Lab of Legends. Difficulty tiers. Normal, hard, heroic, and legendary. Okay, that sounds terrible. That sounds good, but it sounds terrible for someone like me who's bad at that lab. Reward rerolls. Don't like your rewards? Toss them out for a new batch. You only have 3 rerolls for each run though, so use them with care. Oh, I like that. Sometimes I have played the lab and I'm like, I don't like any of these things, so that's nice. Run results. Share your glorious victories and painful defeats with new summaries added at the end of the run. I like this. I really like this thing because I really like Lab of Legends. And I feel like Lab of Legends could be like its own huge draw for bringing people into the game. So that's nice. Next up, a little bit of cosmetic stuff. Some Earth stuff. Nice board. Really, really cool looking board. I like it in all honesty. I like the colors. I like the gold and red. Little, like, I don't know, Roman thing going on here. It's pretty sweet. Also the Guardian of Earth himself. Itself, themselves, whatever. It's so cute. Got the little spatula, got the little fish. I love it. I'm not sure if I'll use it. I kind of like the Guardians I have now, so I might not buy it, but I might buy it. The card back also looks really sweet. Muscular, swole Earth. Amazing. Now this emote though, I like it. I like it. It's perfect to BM with. I can already see people complaining about this and their opponents spamming flexing emotes at them as they are losing to their opponents. So this is gonna be fun to see. I like it. It's just cute. It's really cute. So that's a nice emote. It seems like it's all you can also get it in a bundle too. The bundle also has the as an icon, it seems. So that's nice. Bundle is a little expensive, 21.69 coins. Ha ha ha, 69, nice. But again, that's how cosmetics are because the game itself is so free to play. So cool. And then there's not much else. Some miscellaneous stuff. Talia's artwork has been updated. New effects for strikes and cost reduction and increases have been added. So that's nice. There's a toggle now for prismatic card styles in your deck. So that's pretty cool in case you just didn't want to add prismatics to your decks. Standard and Singleton Gauntlet have been removed now. All gauntlets are now just best of 3 formats, so that's really cool. And the max number of Prime Glories now is only 4 instead of 5. I like that because while I like the Singleton format, I really didn't like it as a gauntlet because it felt a little weird to have a I don't know, a kind of for fun format being used to get a prime glory for best of 3 style tournament. Bunch of bug fixes too. There's a lot of stuff here that's really nice. Some of them are just like small fixes. Others are really big, like Kindred now correctly counts slayed units that were marked in previous rounds towards level up progress. So that's huge. That's one of the reasons why you don't see Kindred too much, because of that bug. Another bug that's getting fixed, Lucky Find will no longer trigger a second spell cast upon selecting one of its 3 choices. A lot of people didn't know if that was a bug or intended. Turns out it was a bug. Katarina, Victor, and Draven have their play effects updated to be summon effects to be consistent, so that's really nice. So that means like Katarina will, I guess, rally now when you summon her. Like rally when you summon her through something like, I don't know, Rekindler or Harrowing, so that's nice. And those are pretty much the only ones, I guess, that are important. Also the Mimic bug. The Mimic bug being fixed is also pretty nice. The bug where Mimic was able to copy enemy champion spells, it should only have created a base version. For example, you could mimic an opponent's or just a champion spell, and it would give you that champion spell, and you would cast that champion spell, and it would shuffle the champion into your deck. That wasn't intended. Some people thought it was intended. Turns out it wasn't. Anyway, though, long video, but big patch. So that's going to be it. Overall, I like the patch. I just wish APHELIOS wasn't nerfed so hard, but I understand why. He's been really strong for a really long time. Just feels a little unfair that he's had, like, what, 2 nerfs in a month? Arguably 3 because of the temple, even though, yes, it's not really his card. It's only related to him, adjacent to him. It honestly feels like they've nerfed APHELIOS harder than they've nerfed TF. Anyway, though, but like I said, that's it. If you have any kind of thoughts about anything I didn't talk about, like anything you'd like to tell me about in terms of any of the buffs or nerfs that I didn't mention that you think are important, I'd love to hear it down in the comments below. If you have any ideas as well as what the meta is going to turn into, I'd also love to hear your opinions down below in the comments. And if you just enjoyed the video in general, it would be really, really nice and mean a lot to me if you could leave a comment or a like down below. Always helps me out and all that stuff. Yada, yada, yada. You know this whole spiel, right? As well as if you want to keep up with the Runeterra content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel as well. And if you want to catch me playing some Legends of Runeterra, you can always go and check me out on my Twitch account at twitch.tv/Senaton. I stream there pretty much every day. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye.